Brought to you by Penguin.
High Season by Katie Bishop. Read by Alix Dunmore. The birthday party. There is a soft, sleepy light on the water. Later, Nina will think of it as the colour of rust. Sunlight through a bottle of sweet, dark rum. The very last embers of an almost extinguished fire. Later, Nina will remember that the heat was heavy, like swimming through warm honey. That the grass was stiff and sharp from lack of moisture. That the tiles, cracked with heat and age, were warmed through. How they felt against her feet. How, in the distance, she could hear the adults talking and laughing, the clink of a cocktail glass, the unmistakable sound of her mother's voice, wavy with drink. Later, Nina will remember how, earlier in the day, she sat out too long in the sun and her shoulders turned pink. How she had eaten a sandwich for lunch, cheese and tomato, wilted in the humidity, the bread curling at the edges. How her mother had been exasperated with her. "Go and bother someone else, why can't you?" How Nina had trailed down the steps that led from the house to the beach, all tangled up with anger at the unfairness of it all. How her sandal had caught on an uneven step, the white leather strap tearing, forcing her to limp back up the hill, onto the path that would take her past the pool, flat and still and glowing. But now, Nina does not think about the colour of the water. She doesn't think about the heat, or the grass, or the tiles. She doesn't think about the fact that her stepfather will be irritated with them all tomorrow, that her mother will be small and apologetic. She does not think about any of these things. All Nina thinks is that there is a dead girl in the water. There is a dead girl in the water, and only Nina knows what happened to her. Part 1. Chapter 1. 20 years later. 2024. The dinner party had been Ryan's idea. He had suggested it a week ago, when he and Nina were having drinks at his members' club in Soho, an anniversary date that had morphed into an impromptu celebration of the job offer that had landed in her inbox that morning. "Your first proper grown-up job," he had said. "That's worth cracking a bottle of good wine for, surely." Nina had tried to rebuff the idea at first. She was 25, after all, and it had taken her much longer than most to arrive at the promised land of full-time employment. The fact that she had only just secured her first salaried wage, something that almost all her friends had enjoyed for years, felt like an embarrassing admission, rather than something to celebrate. But Ryan was adamant. He would plan it all. Nina wouldn't have to worry about a thing. Now, they've had several bottles of good wine, more than Nina has kept count of. She's tipsy. A starry haze has settled over the evening, the sun melting just below the rooftop beyond their flat. The table is strewn with empty plates, still slicked with salad dressing and seafood shells, everyone too drunk to suggest clearing up. Nina sits on the windowsill, her glass half empty, her white wine warmed through with the early summer heat, as Ryan tops up everyone's drinks. "Cheers!" Her brother Blake leans over from his seat on the sofa to clink his glass against hers. "You worked hard for this, you know. You deserve it." Nina can tell that he's drunk by the way the rims of their glasses tap together slightly too hard, a tiny tsunami of wine sloshing over the edge. She has worked hard for this. A postgraduate degree and years of clinical training, not to mention the endless job applications, the slog of rejections before, finally, the offer that came through last week. An assistant clinical psychologist role at a small London clinic. "Child psychology, though," Blake says now, shaking his head. "Bit close to the bone, don't you think?" "So you've said," says Nina. "About 20 times, actually." She gives him a gentle nudge. "Come on, Blake," she says, smiling. "You understand why." He sits back heavily in the chair. "I just think it's a bit morbid, isn't it? You know that Mum's still hoping you'll change your mind."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?